I just went bent. How Britain's most corrupt cop ruined countless lives. How many people did DS Derek Ridgewell fit up? The sheer scale of his depravity and his targeting of men of color is only now becoming clear. In the modest-sized Court 7 at the Royal Courts of Justice in central London, the children of Salaya Mehmet and Basil Peterkin squeeze into the rows of benches alongside journalists, campaigners, and friends. It is the morning of the 18th of January 2024, almost 47 years since their fathers were imprisoned for conspiracy to steal goods from the Bricklayers Arms Depot in South London where they worked. 3 years later, in 1980, the officer who arrested them, along with 2 of his team, was convicted of the same crime in the same depot which they policed. Mehmet and Peterkin, both now dead, always said they were framed. Even now, their families refuse to believe that their fathers will have their convictions quashed until they hear the judge say the words. Things have come a long way since Mehmet's wife received a letter out of the blue in September 2022. It had come from the Criminal Cases Review Commission. She was perplexed by it. The CCRC is an independent body which investigates cases where people may have been wrongfully convicted, it read. If the CCRC finds important new evidence or legal argument, we can send the case back to the appeal court. The Court of Appeal, the letter read, accepted that the new evidence, which related to DS Ridgewell's own conviction in 1980 for conspiracy to steal from the Bricklayers Arms Goods Depot, which resulted in a significant prison sentence, meant that the evidence given by DS Ridgewell and his officers at the trials of the Oval 4 and Stockwell 6 could not be relied on as truthful. Gulser Salaya had not heard of the Stockwell 6 or the Oval 4 nor DS Derek Ridgewell, but she did know that her husband had been arrested by the British Transport Police BTP in the 1970s while working as a porter for British Rail at the Bricklayers Arms. Mehmet and 6 colleagues were convicted of conspiracy to steal £30,000 worth of goods. The police estimated that, over 18 months, the gang stole goods worth £300,000. Mehmet, who died of COVID in 2021, was jailed for 9 months. He always insisted he was innocent. The conviction ruined his life. What happened to him and his colleagues has chilling echoes of the post office scandal criminalist for something in the workplace that they did not do.
Gulser passed on the letter to her 3 adult sons, Regu, 52, and 44-year-old twins, that there was a possibility of clearing Mehmet's name. But like her husband, Gulser had lost faith in British justice when he was convicted. She didn't want anything to do with the police, nor did she want to dig up ghosts from the past. Eventually, her sons convinced her that this was an opportunity to restore their father's reputation, albeit posthumously. It took almost 50 years, but on 18 January, Mehmet, alongside Peterkin, who died in 1991, were finally vindicated. This is not simply a story about a horrifying miscarriage of justice. It is also a story about one of the most corrupt officers in British history and the police establishment that allowed him to thrive in his criminality and then protected him. It is about a justice system so indifferent to the fates of the men wrongfully convicted that it did nothing to clear their names for almost 47 years. As soon as Ridgewell was convicted, the BTP should have examined his arrest record to see if he could have been responsible for innocent people going to jail, especially for the crimes he had committed. But that never happened. In the end, it was only a quirk of fate, one of his victims listening to a radio call-in about miscarriages of justice, that resulted in a series of convictions being overturned on appeal. Mehmet was a family man. He was born in England, but like Gulser, he was Turkish Cypriot and had grown up in Cyprus. After their marriage, they had moved to London. His sons say he would have worked 24 hours a day if he could to give his family a good life. He took as much overtime at the Bricklayers Arms as was on offer. It was a stable job, and he had been there for 8 years. He hoped to be made a manager one day, and saw no reason why he couldn't work for British Rail till he retired on a decent pension. Then, in November 1975, he was arrested. Mehmet stood trial at the Old Bailey in April 1977, one of 12 people accused of stealing by Ray labelling parcels to direct them to other addresses and then selling on the goods. All but one were employed by British Rail at the Bricklayers Arms, a vast London depot that dealt with between 120,000 and 160,000 parcels a week, of which about two-thirds were mail-order goods. After a trial lasting 9 weeks and 2 days, Mehmet was convicted of conspiracy to steal, handling stolen goods and 2 counts of theft. Peterkin was convicted of conspiracy to steal and was also sentenced to 9 months. Regu remembers the night the police arrived at the family home. He was 6 years old. He discovered later that his father was already being held by the police. "I was asleep and I woke up because of the commotion," he says. "There were 2 or 3 police officers rummaging through the house. Mum was upset and cuddling me, telling me there was nothing to worry about. But there was." Ridgewell was planting stuff at the house while pretending to look for stolen property.